Okay. Cheers. Here's to Grant.
Cheers.
Okay.
I like how we got the toast out of the way.
Well, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Rex Kevin Lalley. Yeah. And that's it. So, Grant knew me as Rex.
Okay.
Because that's my name on Facebook. It's my first name, so on Facebook. And we met through Facebook, through music.
Awesome.
Connected online through music.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Are we interviewing, or I'm just...
I wasn't going to stop
I know you do podcasts.
I do. This is about something different, but
Yeah.
where do you remember your time when you first met Grant?
Okay. So I found Grant's music online through a website that did a top 10 of local music that sadly is gone. And the music he was doing at the time was under the name Peeler City, which was, I found out later, Grant had simply appropriated Sean Lidster's poetry recordings and put them to his own guitar noise music without permission, and then combined them and called the project Peeler City, which is brilliant. And he had a couple of things on there. Actually, the song that I liked was not Sean's poetry, but Grant's lyrics, a song called Downtown Amy.
Okay.
And I thought it was awesome. So, very Jesus and Mary Chain-ish.
Gotcha.
So I heard that, and I was booking music at Club David, so I was looking for any local musicians and any bands. And I reached out, and Grant responded, and that started just this, as anyone who had any correspondence online with Grant would be familiar with, is just a crazy torrent of messages about absolutely everything. And yeah, it was very interesting. So we booked a show for Peeler City, and I had not met him. I booked them just on merit of the recording, and we booked a Sunday show. For some reason, I was just filling up the schedule, and we discussed, he was, from his messages, was obviously quirky, and we kind of connected online just in sort of that this sort of aesthetic, I don't know what I would call it, alternative maybe, in that he was asking me, well, what are the set times and stuff like that, and I said, well, that's up to you, and he just pushed it. Basically, I said anything goes, and he's like, really? Well, okay, let's do this. And it ended up being an afternoon show that could go all night with a completely open format, and I basically just said he could do whatever he wants. So I had not met him, but the show is booked for a Sunday, and we did a Facebook event, and I did my promotions, but there is very little to say about the band because there's not much to know out there. So I met Grant the night before the show. He showed up with one of the other musicians, Jeff Thor, and they came in and introduced themselves, and Grant made an impression. He's very tall, orange hair, kind of orange afro almost, and he's like very bushy and gangly, and I joked with him about being very kind of Ronald McDonald-ish, but so he came in, and he was an interesting guy, and he showed up with Jeff, and he told me that he and Jeff had just met that night, and he was going to be playing with them, and also that he didn't know any of the other musicians who were going to be playing the next day. So that was interesting. So somehow he assembled a band. There was no Peeler City band. It was just music that he had made in his room, and then because he booked a show, somehow gathered a group of musicians to perform. And it was great. It made me a little nervous. But then the show itself, there was nobody there to see the show. I gotta say, nobody showed up to watch the show. It was only musicians on stage, and I think there were maybe 4 or 5. One of whom was Sean. That's when I met Sean. No, I had met him once before, I think, but Sean showed up to do his part, just reading poetry. There was a guy doing like percussion. Jeff Thor was playing keyboards and bass simultaneously, which I thought was awesome. Grant was playing guitar, doing his noise guitar thing, and there was a guy playing, I think, mandolin, which was pretty cool. So they showed up, and we started in the afternoon, and they just started making noise and didn't stop for hours. And that was it. And that was bartending, and I loved every minute of it. And some kids showed up. Some folks did show up at some point, and just kind of hung out and heckled them a little bit and left. But
nice. Yeah.
And that's how I met them. And I thought it was, not a moneymaker, but honestly, that's why I'm not a successful music promoter, because I thought it was fantastic.
Right.
The bar made zero money,
Yeah.
the band made zero money, but I thought it was beautiful. So that's how we met.
Wow. That is a hell of a way to meet somebody on the first day.
Yeah, that was interesting. And yeah, I don't know. So I guess we kept in touch after that. After that, he had come to shows at Club David, and we connected, and he'd come to check out music and things, and he'd just show up randomly, and it was always a lot of fun. And we became friends after that.
Yeah.
And I became friends with Sean in Peeler City in that project. And I played music with them. I played music with Grant. He'd come over sometimes to my apartment, and he'd show up with his guitar in the no case, just in the passenger seat. He had a beautiful Gretsch guitar. That was probably, I don't know what it's worth, but it's a nice guitar.
Yeah.
No case, just sitting in the passenger seat of his. He had a really junked out little car, just full of trash. And and he didn't know how to tune it. And he'd come into, I'd force him to tune, or I'd tune it for him.
Sure.
But we had a lot of fun playing. Yeah.
What were some memories that you had of him outside of music?
Well, I think one night stands out where he came over. I was living in the east side, not far from him, and he came over, and his drink of preference was vodka and lemonade. So we sat in the backyard in the summer of this place where I was living, and just sat in lawn chairs and talked and drank all, till dawn. And, he liked to drink, I liked to drink, and, for better or for worse, but that night it was definitely for better. We had a great time, and just, I don't know, I don't even remember what we talked about.
Yeah.
Just, hanging out and talking and enjoying a summer evening. I suppose there's others, but that night stands out. Yeah.
What would you say you can describe with great detail a thing that you were left with by him?
He never stopped smiling. He had definitely an infectious humor, and he's always smiling. That's, I guess, but maybe more than that even is somehow he managed to make these recordings, and this isn't anything that I could have witnessed. Well, he kind of did, but how he did, there's some alchemy to what he was able to do with a guitar not plugged in and not amplified. I don't know how he did it. No amplifier. The recordings that he's made, and I listened to everything.
Yeah.
And he put out a lot.
Yeah.
Everything he did, he put up on SoundCloud. So, at least 12 hours of music, I think. But he got these crazy sounds, and I wanted to ask, I don't know how he did that, because I know he lived in an apartment where he could not make any sound. So he used headphones. Without any amplification, and I don't know, it's weird, that's not something in his presence, but it's something that he was able to do that is very distinct.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was an interesting character.
As you described it as alchemy with music, it's an amazing way to, and I've heard that, not that he couldn't play, but he wasn't a musician, but his tenacity and just drive to play and learn how to play was enough.
Yeah. Well, I think he wasn't a musician in the sense that he didn't know the language of music.
Gotcha.
He wasn't academic, but plenty of people have gone that route, and he definitely had the ear for it. Not being able to not knowing how to tune a guitar and still being able to play in a way that sounds that as though you know what you're doing. It makes it interesting and distinct, and at the same time, he definitely had an ear for music. He basically was playing, emulating his heroes, and sometimes I feel like that can be to someone's detriment. Sometimes when they think that they resist academics or resist formal training, but it worked for him and his sound. Basically, he was a huge fan of the Velvet Underground, as am I, and Lou Reed, and he was able to like kind of emulate that and make it his own, which is cool. It makes and then his own lyrics, and very, very personal lyrics that he just basically played crazy 1 or 2 chord noisy songs and told stories. It was, so unfortunately didn't get to continue and see what that might develop into. But at the same time, put out a lot more material than many people do in a lifetime, which is remarkable. So,
If there was anything you could tell him, what would you leave him with?
I don't think there's anything I could tell him. I told him anything that came to my mind. I think sometimes when people pass, there might be regrets, and I would have loved to have been able to make more music with him.
Fair.
But, dude, he was one person who I felt like he was where he wanted to be when he
Hell yeah. Oh, that was good. That was banging, dude. Oh, love it.